Let me know if y'all can see me, family. Good morning. Good afternoon. It's time to get this going. Let's get it. Let's go. I'm new to this. I'm trying to see where to find y'all in the chat. I need to know if you can hear me. If somebody can show me how to turn off Facebook notifications, that would be helpful. Because they keep popping up and I don't want any interruptions. I know there's someplace in here. I think the camera's connected. Bear with me, family. If you can hear me. Woo, talk about flying by the seat of your pants. Okay, I just typed if you can see and hear me. Hello. How do I find out? Oh my goodness. Okay. Let me phone a friend. I think I'm live. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay. I think I see the comments scrolling on the right. Looks like okay. Do you see and hear me though? All right. Bye. Hi, Sean. Can you let me know that you can see and hear me? Just type yes if you can see and hear me. All right, family. I'm giving this about 1 more minute and then I'm going in. Okay? I'm not really sure. I see my brother Sean in the chat. So I'm just going to trust at 9:05 that everybody can see and hear me. Yes. Thank you, Tamara. Okay. Let's get it. Let's go. All right, family. Good morning. Good afternoon. I want to thank you so very much for joining me for my very first broadcast on the Friends of ADOS TV channel. This is just really exciting. It's nerve-wracking. It's a lot of things, but it was time to give birth to this. I have been studying Black politics with the incomparable Yvette Carnell from Breaking Brown on YouTube and Antonio Moore from Tone Talks since around 2014, and just trying to wrap my mind around what happened after 8 years of Obama and seeing that my people, Black people who showed up 98% to the polls, why we were still the legs of the table that everyone eats from. I couldn't understand it. So Yvette and Tone helped to give me perspective about how, although we built this country as ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery, we are yet given the right to be American in this country. And I got to experience a lot of that, right? Like this movement happened to me as a byproduct of a lot of hardships I experienced around 2008 when the bottom fell out of the real estate market. And there was a lot of shenanigans going on in banking, Wall Street, and in corporate. They were the ones to receive the bailout. And a lot of ADOS experienced the backlash of that choice. Lots of our homes were foreclosed on. Lots of us lost our jobs. So I'm just going to fill you in about me to get you comfortable with me. This is going to be a real kind of familial exchange between us because I love me some ADOS folks. I always have from since I was knee-high to a gatepost. And my father's activism just lured me in. He taught me a deep love of myself, a deep love for my Blackness, a deep love for my people. And he was pretty much shaping within me what I believe has become my purpose. You know, we're all looking for purpose, where our first purpose is to love and to be God's love and expression. But we all have an assignment that we're here on a mission to complete. And I have found mine. That is the fight for reparations, a debt that is owed in the trillions to American descendants of slavery. That is me. That is many of us that are joining me live. And so in 2009, September, as my daughter was about to start kindergarten, I part ways with Wells Fargo Bank, earning $120,000 a year. And my life went into an utter tailspin. The stress at that job took the life of two of my friends. And I decided that I had a daughter to live for, and that I had to make a different choice than to allow that level of stress. If anyone works in banking, finance, I just think it's stressful all around for us in corporate. But that decision is what led me in this movement, in this fight for reparations, because I found that it wasn't as easy to find work. I was going through a 2.5-year loan modification process when Bank of America tried to foreclose on my home. It was something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But I understand the why behind what I had to grow through, because it was to be used for such a time as now. Well, long story short, God kept me through it all. I'm a faith-filled woman. I attend church regularly. I am the mother to a beautiful 15-year-old daughter who runs track, is in high school now. And she is who I'm fighting for. Not just her, but all of us and all of our children. So my home was spared because there was a $25 billion settlement after a lawsuit was waged against the banks for wrongfully foreclosing on homes. Our biggest asset as ADOS is our homes. So I always give God the glory for sparing my home, for putting me on a whole nother career path as a litigator and negotiator in workers' comp law here in Southern California. And I thank God for taking that trial, turning it into the testimony I'm able to share with you today. I just want you guys to know that it's a big challenge getting ADOS to put themselves first, because we're so accustomed to taking care of everyone else's needs above our own. Many of us wail and gnash our teeth over the immigration issues at the border. I get that, but I'm all cried out behind the senseless assassination of our brothers and sisters, our fathers, our mothers, our brothers. That's where a lot of my energy goes, where my tears go for my own people. I'm all cried out over the fact that here in Los Angeles, we have gone from 15% of the population, ADOS that is, to about 6%. And yet, we're 40% of the homeless on Skid Row. I'm all cried out about the fact that here in Southern California, it's become increasingly hard for ADOS to get work because we don't speak Spanish. We're 6%, they're around 50%. And we have no social capital. When you go to these interviews, you don't see anyone that looks like you. And when you do, they're in place to do the white man's bidding, to deny you access. And so I'm grateful to God for the company I work for the line of work that I do, which I thoroughly enjoy. And I'm grateful to this movement because in my trial, I have learned compassion and empathy for ADOS on a whole new level. And I've decided in launching this show today, with your participation, to lend my voice and my presence to this powerful history-making movement. This is our civil rights moment, family. And before I go further, I want to first give a shout out to the ADOS SoCal team. The advisory board currently consists of myself, Connie Collins, Tara Perry, CO Jason, and we work tirelessly. I always say the movement doesn't sleep, we take cat naps. We work tirelessly on a local level and on a national level to guarantee that our demands for reparations and tangibles for ADOS during this election cycle is heard throughout the nation. I want to thank Yvette Carnell from Breaking Brown and Antonio Moore from Tone Talks. They are the founders of the movement, the national movement. And I'll get into that in just a second. I'll elaborate. I want to thank Marlon Aldridge, my partner who helped me to form the Friends of ADOS Super PAC. He's putting the finishing touches on the website and the bylaws so that we can put the board together and raise money to advertise for candidates who have reparations and an ADOS agenda on their platform. We need those people in Congress to be our voice. I want to thank, who else? Oh, goodness. So many people to thank for how I got here to this point. Tamara, I don't know if I mentioned Tamara Johnson Shealy out of Georgia. She graciously, without ever seeing my abilities, invited me onto her show as co-host, on not one but two occasions. And she is pretty much responsible for why I'm leaping right now, knowing that the net will appear. I thank you for your patience as I work through my jitters and get through this exchange with you. But she is a beautiful sister running for office. I'm going to let her announce when the time is right. But I'm super excited for her, and I'm thrilled to endorse her when the time is right. That's kind of fundamentally who I want to thank. And I want to thank you guys for spending your morning and your afternoon to join me in this exchange. Let me go back to Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. For those of you who don't really fully understand how they and us are responsible for reparations being on the national and international stage right now. Everyone is watching and waiting to see what happens this election cycle. And these two powerhouses are responsible for galvanizing us from a few thousand subscribers to around 70,000 subscribers in the YouTube space apiece. And I have to give them a ton of credit and praise because their very first ADOS conference in Louisville, Kentucky, through all of the backlash and the judgment and the Russian bot narrative and the mudslinging, what they gave birth to in Louisville, Kentucky, the first weekend in October, is a moment I will never, ever forget. We collectively pushed through and gave birth to the new civil rights moment of our day. They have been tirelessly on YouTube teaching us about Black politics, having book clubs, and various guests, and making a huge impact in this country and abroad, spreading the word about the debt we are owed. This is not a handout. This is a debt that we are owed. And Yvette Carnell created the hashtag ADOS back in 2016. But the movement is brand new, people. I don't know if many of you know this, but after Kamala Harris threw her hat into the presidential ring on MLK Jr.'s birthday, on Howard University's campus, Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore started diving into her record as prosecutor and attorney general here in California. We were not going to be duped again by the identity politics. And they've been committed since she had a record to share with us that record. And in so doing, her poll numbers started to be affected. Then Shireen Mitchell went on the Joy-Ann Reid morning show, and the Russian bot narrative was created. Well, the ADOS, who have been following Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell, were not going to sit idly by. The ADOS hive went on full assail to let them know we're not bots. We are descendants of American slavery. Our ancestors' blood is in this soil. And yet, White people benefit from all the wealth we built through our free, heinous chattel slave labor in this country. Out of 107 trillion household dollars, white people share $100 trillion as compared to 90% of us Black folks who share $700 billion. 100 trillion, 700 billion. Let that sink in. Well, that's problematic. And this is what Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell have been sharing, and why they are leading the fight for our reparations. Because quite frankly, no one has presented any other novel ideas to close the egregious racial wealth gap. And so we didn't really happen to this movement. This movement happened to us. We would often ask Yvette, what's the solution? And she constantly looked to us as the solution. And so we got busy because we understand that if we don't get reparations and a Black agenda, we will be at zero wealth by 2053. Zero. We are in the fight of our lives, family, to prevent from becoming the permanent underclass in the country that our ancestors built with their lives. So being at that conference, the spirit of the ancestors was with us. I felt it in every hug, in every photo opportunity, as people stopped me in the hallway to thank me for my contribution to the Tamara for Georgia Facebook show. There was so much love, so much respect. And I believe one of the proudest moments for me was when we were moved by a presentation, how there would just be this ripple throughout the audience of ADOS, ADOS, ADOS. It was powerful to embrace being an American descendant of slavery. We're so accustomed to the white standard of beauty being thrust on us. We're so accustomed to the negative narrative on Black love, Black on Black families and babies. We're so accustomed to being demonized and criminalized. But we are an extraordinary people. And we are still here, 40 million strong in this country. And to be in this movement is to find your tribe. I know for myself, I felt strangled in the things that were happening to ADOS. I felt voiceless. And I've heard from many of you as well, that you felt that too before the movement. And there was another side to that movement that was bittersweet for me. The fact that many of us couldn't even afford to be there. Many of us could not afford to be there. Let that sink in. We build the richest country in the world, and we could not afford to fly to Louisville, Kentucky and participate, to get hotels and participate. This is what this show is about, family. I will be talking about the ADOS hot topics, things that impact us as a people, focusing on that. I will be making the case for reparations some more. Because the sad reality is, Yvette Carnell is at 70,000 subscribers. There are 40 million of us in this country. And yet, I see the entertainment channels on YouTube, the Black entertainment channels, reach in excess of 1 million followers. That's a distraction of exponential proportion that far too many of us have chosen to just dull our senses and look away to what's happening. That is until it visits you or someone in your family. And then you have to become their reparations. Shout out to my family, who has been my reparations when times have gotten tough for me financially. I appreciate and love them a whole lot. But there are a lot of us that have no place to turn. There are far too many of us who are amongst the working homeless. So I'm going to be tackling those issues. I'm going to be tackling issues like unemployment, Black men at a rate of 40% throughout the country. I'm going to tackle homelessness. I'm going to tackle opportunity zones, gentrification. I'm going to tackle our civil rights laws that are under attack right now. I'm here to make the case that reparations is not just for slavery and Jim Crow, but also for accrued, ongoing, systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country that our ancestors built with their lives. I'm going to have extraordinary guests from this movement on my show to help me continue to make the case for reparations until we've got at least 20 million of us on the reparations train crying for our repair. Like a steady drumbeat, ADOS, we are here. And there are lots of factions out there that seek to destroy us. But as we've already exhibited, we're very strong, powerful, resilient people. I'm going to talk about the Black immigrants masking our failure in this country. I'm going to talk about the census and why the distinction for the ADOS is necessary. I'm going to talk about everything relative to us because we clearly need more voices on this issue. So I will be here every Saturday at 9 a.m. like a steady drumbeat until they cut the check. Another reason why this is critical for me to lend my voice to is because it's something my daughter shared. She asked me if I could just support the movement with my money and not be out front because she fears for my life. She says, Mommy, they don't like it when we talk about us. They don't like it when we love us. I don't want them to kill you like they did Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. It is a sad day, family, in 2019 when your children would prefer you be in the background rather than the foreground because they fear for your life. 2019. But I had to decide when I joined this movement that I was willing to put my life on the line for my people. No, I'm not a martyr. I'm just a mother and lover of my people. And I'll be damned if I'm going to be silent out of fear. I had to push it aside and know that God's got me and understand, as my faith teaches me, that I'm not this body. I am the spirit of the living God expressing in this body, as are you, as are you. It's time. Sorry, family. I'm trying to get rid of these notifications so I can speak to you in peace. It's time for us to push past our fear and do what is right for the people. It's time for us to rise up and claim what is ours. Our ancestors require it of us. And if you don't have any wealth to leave your children and your grandchildren, reparations and an ADOS agenda needs to be your only priority, your single and foremost priority. Now, I'm going through my notes to make sure I haven't missed any points I want to make. Okay, family, we're at 9:35, and I want to end this by 10. So let me jump right into it. Today's topic is going to be putting our full support behind the only candidate who has spoken on reparations since 1997 in her book, Healing the Soul of America, Mary Ann Williamson. Now, let me explain. While at the conference, Yvette and Antonio shared with us about their strategy, Project Down Ballot. They dealt with the general. And I had fully intended to ask, what about the primary? Marianne Williamson was the only presidential candidate to accept an invitation to speak at the ADOS conference. She has spoken from the chest every time she's been on that campaign trail about our reparations. She is a spiritual giant, and I have studied her works for over 30 years. In my humble opinion, she is the only candidate capable of leading this country out of the abyss we're currently in, because she's spiritually principled. And yet, there was no talk at the conference about a strategy to get reparations on the lips of the establishment candidate that we all know the DNC will steal for if they have to, running into the general. Yvette and Tone talked about Project Down Ballot. They talked about showing up to the polls, definitely. We must show up. But when we do, if the presidential candidate has not stumped on reparations leading into the general, not just HR 40, but if they aren't talking full-chested about reparations up to the general, that we write in ADOS in lieu of a vote. A recent show also revealed that if the candidates down ballot aren't offering reparations nor an ADOS agenda, write in by their name ADOS. If you can't write it in, don't elect them. So this is going to require some research on your part, family. You're going to have to research the candidates that are running on your ballot. And as Yvette says, we can guarantee that someone on that ballot has something for you. So yes, show up in the same numbers that you showed up for President Barack Obama. But this time, let it be about that reparations and the ADOS agenda. Let's vote as a block and work as a block, as Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore have instructed us to do, so that whomever is elected will understand that we are no longer going to be the mules for the Democratic Party. It's costing us too much, family. We're going to need a president that's going to sign an executive order for our reparations. And I've gotten permission from my partner in the Friends of ADOS Super PAC, Marlon Aldridge, to share some startling statistics about the Democrats and the Republican and the vote that will support why I believe this will ultimately have to boil down to an executive order, which makes our protest vote even more necessary. Okay. Bear with me. I'm going to pull it up now. Marlon Aldridge writes on Facebook yesterday, the win-loss congressional record for Republicans versus Democrats. Over the last 26 years, Republicans have held both the House and the Senate concurrently. 18 years. Republicans have held, out of the last 26 years, Republicans have held both the House and the Senate concurrently for 18 years. 69.2% of the time, Republicans have held the House and the Senate. Democrats have held both the House and the Senate concurrently for 6 years, or 23.1%. Facts. Blacks have the largest voter turnout among minorities. Blacks vote as a bloc. Blacks vote as a bloc 75 to 90% of the time. No other group comes close. In 2012, turnout rates among eligible white and black voters was 64.1% and 60.2% respectively, while it was only 48% and 47.3% among Latino and Asian American voters respectively. Let me take a pause. This is why you see our very own CBC pushing more for DACA than they are ADOS. And this is why you see Trump offering deals to the Asian Americans over doing anything for ADOS. The 2012 election was the first presidential election since Reconstruction ended in which black turnout exceeded white turnout. However, Republicans control both House and Senate. The president is weak if his or her party does not the House and the Senate. His assessment: blacks have gained nothing from the Democratic Party for 2 reasons. We have asked for nothing specifically for us, and the Democrats have given us nothing despite our loyalty. If the Republicans win the presidency in 2020, it will mean very little for blacks because the Democrats are clearly losers by the record I just shared. Republicans blame Democrats for our country's problems, but they have been the ones in control the majority of the time, 69.2%. What have Republicans done for black people specifically? Nothing. Even though Trump is a failed president, blacks can learn one thing from him: quid pro quo. If Democrats don't meet our specific demands, we don't vote for their candidates. We fill in ADOS. We vote for made-up write-in candidates to show them the power of our vote and the margin of Democratic loss. Besides, they are losers anyway. So back to my point with just a few more minutes of this broadcast. We need a strategy, family. This is chess. I know Marianne Williamson's numbers are low. I know she's not talking about cash repair. But guess what she is talking about? Reparations. And guess who she is intending to have on that council? Dr. Sandy Darity, our leading economist in the ADOS movement. This is why the strategy I present to you today is to not wait until the general to protest vote, but protest during the primary by putting the full weight of our ADOS vote behind presidential candidate Marianne Williamson. We need to send a message to the establishment candidate that will be selected that they either include reparations on their run for the White House, or we're going to write in ADOS come the general. I need for you guys to spread this message after you contemplate it. I need for you to understand the strategy. If you do not understand, you can hit me up in the Friends of ADOS TV Messenger. You can also reach me via email at anirvana@friendsofados.com. But I need for you to understand that the primary is where we have to start our protest, by voting for Marianne Williamson. You've got to understand, family, white folks are steaming mad that she went from 100 billion to 500 billion. She has to play the politics too. Yeah, I know you guys don't like that. But do you think that she can sit up here and tell this country they owe us in excess of $17 trillion over multi-generations and not estrange white folks? We can't put our intellect in the trunk, family. And we need a strategy. And this is one I've been contemplating since she threw her hat in the ring. How can we leverage her candidacy to get what we've come for, that check? And although I will be discussing who is going to be eligible for reparations in this country, you must descend from American slavery. I will also be discussing the rest of the reparations package. I want you to be prepared for that show by visiting ADOS101.com so you can come with your questions during that show. Our time is now, family. The Hispanics are growing fast, and the Democrats are vying for their attention, and they're still very invested in trying to pull over the Republicans, which, as I just shared with you from the statistics that Marlon posted, it matters not. At the end of the day, if they want a Republican, they just vote Republican. We're not the ones who put Trump into office. White folks did. But they want us to take all the blame. They're going to come after me. They come after Yvette. They come after Tone for this protest vote. Project Down Ballot. Project Marianne Williamson for the primary. But if not now, when? You got to ask yourself, do you have the space and the resources to house and feed your family when the bottom falls out for them? Should we have to live like third world citizens in a first-class country when all of the wealth is attributable to us? You've got some things to contemplate. You've got some things to think about. And I want you to seriously think about it. I want you to share this video with everyone you know. Get everyone on board. It's time for us to become ADOS first from the chest, to be about our full repair unapologetically. And so I want to see if I have any questions or comment. Oh, God. Okay. Oh, it's a lot going on over here. I thank you guys. I didn't even see all this. Hello, family. Thank you for being in the chat. I've got about, oh my goodness, 8 minutes. I was only able to see, just bear with me. I beg your patience, family. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. Yay. Oh, turn up the heat. Okay, I'm trying to see if I have any questions. Okay, Sean says it's funny watching me figure this out. Let's see here. I'm just scrolling to see if I have any questions or comments. Thank you for sharing your story from Tamara. Absolutely. Our testimonies free us, family. You look great on camera, Ange. Hey, hone it down for the 50 plus crew. Thank you, brother. We need our own state. Can we just work on reparations right now? Who said that? Mr. Ken Thomas. We don't have the money for our own state. All these trillions they claim we spend, it's a lie. We're worth $200 liquid here in Southern California. In Boston, $8 liquid. Think it's Alabama, $11 liquid. No, we're not ready for our own state. Okay. Turn up the heat for Marlon. Thank you, Marlon. Oh, lots of kisses and love for my new sister from another mister. Happy birthday, Dawn. Super PAC. Yes, we will be diving into the Super PAC as soon as it's launched. Okay. Just scrolling for questions. Preach, Tamara. Thank you. Peace, ADOS fam from Justin Mathis. I see you. Thanks for sharing, Dawn, with all your family. Otis. YC did a program around this time. As 2020 talk continues, Kamala Harris is set to headline Martha Vineyard's reception. Thank you, Otis, for sharing. Justin shares 1 in 5 Black men were unemployed the entire 2016. That's another thing I'm going to do, family. I'm going to speak on mass incarceration, the new slavery. Slavery hasn't ended, family. Slavery has not ended. Okay? 1 in 5 Black men were unemployed in the entire 2016. That's unprecedented in the richest country in the world. You got that right, Justin. I'm scrolling. Oh, Dawn, you've been busy. Thank you, sis. I love you for that. Thank you for the love. Okay. Justin Mathis, Project Takeover, Reparations 2020. Project Takeover, we'll be discussing that. You're pretty much just going to hear me give bullet points of event and tone. And some of my, I'm going to also recommend other favorites like Phil from the African Diaspora Show. Tim Black has a show on Black politics. I got some things to share. We've got to work on our education. Okay, Otis says, EO, question mark. There is a specific reason that we are seeking congressional movement, not an easily reversed EO. Otis, help a sister out. I don't know what EO is. Nigel shared ADOS101.com, Black Agenda. Thank you. Also, Dr. Williams, Thank you, Dr. William Sandy Darity, Duke University economic guru. He's part of our tribe. Thank you, Nigel, for his full name. I appreciate that. Tamara endorses Marianne Williamson. Nigel is talking on writing in ADOS. You are right, sister. Thank you, Nigel. Okay, so Marlon says, oh, Lord. Oh, I got 3 minutes. Well, for some reason, I can't see the rest of Marlon's questions. So, family, this is what I'm going to do. With 3 minutes left, I'm going to ask for you to continue sending your comments. Send them to me in the Friends of ADOS TV. Send them to me under Angela Nirvana. You can also email me at anirvana@friendsofados.com. If there is a topic that you'd like for me to research and explore on the show, this is our show, family. I'm not a professional journalist. I just have a gift for gab and an intense love for ADOS. Unapologetically. That's my contribution. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for making this show a success, for making this video go viral, for entertaining my endorsement of Marianne Williamson and joining me in this strategy. No, she won't win. The goal is to send a message to the establishment candidate that it is reparations and a Black agenda, or ADOS will be marked up and down that ballot. My battery is trying to die on me, family. Thank you, and I want to wish you a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your day. Love, light, and peace to each of you, ADOS and allies. Until next Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon Eastern. Spread the word. Mwah.